was a really wonderful guy. Like, thank goodness that Selkirk did have him initially, as he apparently, and from what I read on him, he had a brother, Peter, that I don't know if you knew this. He had a brother, Peter, that owned a general store in was the Rapids, which is Lockport.
Oh.
And so this brother encouraged him, like Dr. David Young graduated, I don't know when for sure, but he grew up or took his medical training in surgery and medicine in Kingston, Ontario at Queen's University. And he was encouraged by his brother, who lived at the Rapids in Lockport, to come to this area and help the settlers, because at that time it was like, obviously there was a lot of settlers in and around Selkirk. So I guess he had an office in it was Cocklow's pharmacy. Apparently he had an office in the upstairs there, and he looked after people that were settlers, the military, and the newly formed Northwestern Mounties, or what is it called? What were they called again? Northwest Mounted Police. And then because of that, and then he, because of what was happening at the Lower Fort Garry, he was asked to look after the patients there as well. So I'm pretty sure he had an office at the Lower Fort Garry. He lived, I guess he brought his family here. I think he had a few kids, and they lived very near, Hawthorne Lodge? That's where Dr. Olofsson used to live. That's where it's on the river road, and that's where his home was, so he could take his horse and buggy and be very near Lower Fort Garry, as well as in Selkirk. So he was asked, when they were going to build the Selkirk Mental Health Center, or the main building there, that he was asked to be the medical superintendent, because he probably was maybe one of the only doctors in this area, besides maybe Dr. Schultz. Anyway, so when it opened in 1886, he looked after all these people. And he did really, really well. He was really accepted well by although he was the only doctor. Can I read a little bit of this here? Yeah. He worked tirelessly. They said he was a very dedicated man. He hired the matrons. He was appointed their medical supervisor. Reforms in the treatment of the mentally ill was beginning to take place, and he was extremely, he was so involved in the whole workings of that building too, not like a public works, and he would visit other asylums. He wanted to visit other asylums to see how they were treating the people with mental illness, and he wanted to make improvements here. He was even visited by the Premier Roblin at that time, and he toured around, and the Premier had said that he had the greatest satisfaction with everything he saw at the mental health center because of David Young, and to compliment the mental health center on the manner in which the patients were cared for. So he was very, very involved. And what else can I say about him? He retired in, he had said it was a wonder that he had spent so much time with the patients, because his job was so demanding. He had to do other administration type of work too. Vast amounts of his time must have been taken up reporting to the Minister of Public Works. His letters dealt with such topics as boiler tubes, ordering seeds, beds, a team of horses, the breakdown of the water system. So he was involved in everything. A letter had to be written explaining all the details each time a patient eloped, and they called it absconded without permission, as well as a letter detailing every resignation with an accompanying request for permission to recruit another worker. And each letter that he wrote began with, "I have the honor to report," and it closed with, "I have the honor to be, sir, your obedient servant." So and in 1912 he retired. Before he retired, he changed the name of the asylum to the hospital for what did he name it?
The sane.
Insane. Yeah, it didn't help much, but it was better than asylum. He retired in 1912 at the age of 65, and it was due to his urging that asylum was changed to hospital by the Manitoba legislature in 1910. He died at the home of one of his sons in 1931 at the age of 84, and he was his burial was in the church yard at Little Britain near Selkirk. During his 25 years as medical superintendent, he practiced a standard of patient care which has been the test of time, stood the test of time. So he was a wonderful man, and they did, in his honor, name, and I don't know how many, maybe a dozen years ago, they named the reception building, which he probably never did see, the reception building, Dr. David Young building. A special man.